Chapter 16. Weeks passed and turned into months, and Princess Bailey, with the help of Prince Michael, and a few stubborn but still tolerated maids, had gotten past the mourning of her parents. Now, the wedding that would combine the two kingdoms was underway. Princess Bailey wore an altered version of the white dress she had worn a few months ago. It had been folded into a trunk and put away, but a few mice had gotten into it. But this didn't bother the princess, who was sent it off to be repaired by a seamstress, who was more than happy to serve the princess by working on such an important garment. Her maids fussed around her, making sure the dress fit properly as one tied a loose knot with the leather lacings of her bodice. "Not too tight," she grimaced as she felt her chest and stomach being squeezed by the hardened leather. "The point is to show my figure, not stop me from breathing." "My apologies, my princess, but we must make sure it does not fall off on your way down the aisle." "I understand, but still." She looked at herself in the full-length mirror. Her dark hair had been braided and twisted into a bun into the back of her head, and strung with white pearls that matched the embroidery of her gown. She sighed softly. "This is it, isn't it? In a few hours I'll be queen of a kingdom twice the size of my father's." "Yes, my princess, you are very lucky." A maid spoke up as she looked over the gown to be sure everything was perfect. "And you'll have a handsome kingdom ruled by your side." There was a knock at the door. "Speaking of which..." The maid smiled as she went to answer the door. It was a reverend from the town that surrounded the palace, dressed in a white vestment for the occasion. "Princess Bailey, we're ready for you in the garden." He smiled as he looked into the room, holding his holy book in his right hand. "It's time, child." "You make it sound like a death sentence, sir." She stepped off the stool and walked toward the gray-haired man. "Well, you are giving yourself to Prince Michael." His expression became a bit more stern. "It is a serious and historical event." His smile returned. "Today 2 kingdoms join as their rulers join in holy matrimony." "Now, come, please." He held out his hand towards the sunlit hallway. A holy man or woman was the only person who could order the prince or princess around. So, with another soft sigh, she dismissed her maids and followed him down the hall. She wondered if the prince had gone through this much trouble. Prince Michael paced around in the room he had been given. "My prince, you're going to leave a rut in the floor." A male servant smiled as he watched the frantic prince. "Silence, you!" He glared. "I can't seem to calm myself. In a few hours... No, moments... I will be king of a realm that will be far larger than the ones either of our parents left behind." Princess Bailey was the perfect bride for him. Yes, she was beautiful, intelligent, and had a spine. He had thought about this uncountable times in the past year and a half. But now today was the day, and he couldn't even get himself to be still for a moment. Even a moment. He was dressed and ready. He had been since early this morning. He looked into the mirror as he finally stopped pacing. His hair was pulled back into a ponytail tied with a piece of white leather. His suit had been tailored to fit him perfectly and matched the cloudy whiteness of the gown worn by the woman who would soon be his bride. When will that servant be here? His entire job was to come and tell me that they're ready for us. They have to be prepared by now. Now where's... He was interrupted by a rough knock on the door. The servant answered it. "Yes." "Prince Michael, we're ready for you in the garden. The Reverend and Princess Bailey should be on their way as well. We should get you down there immediately." "Finally." He smiled. "Well, then let's go." He took a final glance at his reflection before he left the room. He and the servant who followed him were the first to arrive outside. A few guests had arrived, and now, in the chairs that had been set in front of an archway, it was made of cast iron and covered with blue and white flowers, roses. The aisle between the two sections of chairs, one for the bride and the other for the groom, had been laid with a snow-white carpet and blue and white rose petals. The guests all around stood, each one a dignitary from the realm, there to witness this historic joining of two kingdoms. Despite the knot that had claimed his stomach, he put on a smile as he walked down the aisle to stand behind the podium. He smiled to the people, and with a motion of his hand, Princess Bailey stepped out into the sunlight, holding a bouquet of white lilies, the pearls in her dark hair shining in stark comparison. The gown showed her figure quite well as she slowly walked down the aisle, standing at the left side in front of Prince Michael. He couldn't take his eyes off her. She looked so radiant in that gown. This was really it. This was the day when they would join in marriage and become rulers of the newly joined kingdoms. If you are ready, child. The Reverend smiled to the prince, who was startled back into reality by the man's words. "Oh yes, we're ready, sir," he smiled. "Do you have the rings?" He looked at the two. "Yes." Prince Michael reached in his pocket and produced two white gold rings, one for a man and one for a woman. The woman's rings, meant for Princess Bailey, had not a diamond but a ruby, to represent fiery passion, determination, and compassion in life. The man's ring, meant for Prince Michael, had three slightly smaller rubies, but here bore the same representation. He gave the rings to the Reverend. He still smiled, looking at the rings, then at the crowd. "My friends, today is a great day. A historical day. It is a day when two kingdoms will join with the marriage of their two rulers. But you already know this, I am sure." He turned his attention to Prince Michael. "In the name of the goddess, child, do you take this woman, Princess Bailey Anne Cathart, to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," he answered, looking into Bailey's eyes, once so icy toward him, but now warm and lovely. "And do you, Bailey, take this man, Prince Michael Alexander Russell II, to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Her eyes met the prince's violet irises, once so cruel, and to those around him, but now almost a new person after what they had gone through together. "I do. Do you have any words to say to one another before you exchange the rings?" "Yes, sir, I do." Prince Michael looked at the Reverend, then to Bailey. "Then speak, child. We're all listening." Princess Bailey. His eyes did not leave hers as she spoke. "You are the most intelligent, beautiful, and amazing woman I've ever met. I admit I didn't treat you like a woman should be treated when we first met, and for that I must apologize. But my point is, I love you. And I have since I met you, and always will. And I am more than honored that you will have me as your king." "Princess Bailey, do you have anything to say?" "Yes, sir, I do." "Prince Michael, when we first met, I thought you were a stubborn man, a pompous man. But then I learned why you were like that and understood. Even more so after the death of my own father. I was against our being married at first because I just could not see myself with you, but now I can't see myself with no one else. And I'm honored that you will have me as your queen. There was a moment of silence. If that is all, we can exchange the rings. The Reverend looked at the two, and they both nodded their approval. He turned to Prince Michael. My prince and princess, in the name of the goddess, I pronounce you husband. He slipped the ring onto Prince Michael's finger, and then turned to Bailey and did the same. And wife, you may now kiss the bride. Prince Michael did not hesitate as he stepped towards his own new bride, his new queen, and embraced her, meeting her soft pink lips with his own, as the small crowd began to cheer in approval. The two kingdoms had been united as one, and that day started a new history of a new, much larger realm. One to be ruled by a king and queen who had been through so much already, with so much ahead of them.